There are a lot of videos out there that show you how to tune your chanter, and yes, I admit this is another one of those, but I want to show you guys a couple of tricks that I teach my students that teach them how to memorize quickly how to tune their chanter. And you know, if you're using an app, it gives you all this information, but what do you do with it? I want to help you to do that, and the goal here is to help you to become more comfortable with tuning your own chanter and just giving you a better sound and making you a better bagpiper. I'm Wheaton McClanathan. Let's get into it. If you've ever been told, or you heard somewhere, you read somewhere, don't use a tuner, I think it's a wise question to ask. Do the pipers that I see, that I respect, that I know, do they use digital tuners? And the answer is 100% yes. Go to any Highland Games, walk around the band area, and you will see probably every piper who's warming up using a digital tuner of some sort. See, the thing is that most people don't have an ear for tuning that's anywhere near what the smartphones and the digital tuners can do. And that brings me to my next point. I think that the people who say those things, I don't think that they're being manipulative or lying. I just think it's probably one of two things. They're either probably coaching along super beginner bagpipers who are really not ready to tune their chanter yet, or they themselves were gifted by God with an amazing ear and that they can hear in colors. I mean, I knew a guy, I used to say he could hear colors. It was just a gift that he had. But for the rest of us, there's an app for that, and you really should be using it. I believe that teaching a new piper to tune his own chanter is not only a plus for him, but it's also a bonus for those who are going to be within earshot and they're going to hear him, because obviously a bagpipe that is tuned sounds way better than one that's not. Duh. And the best part is it's not even that hard. See, you can get a really expensive kind of digital tuner like this, or you could even get a cheap one like this. But today I want to focus on the easiest way, but also the way that I tune my own bagpipes on a daily basis, and that's with the Braw Bagpipe Tuner App. It's awesome. I wasn't asked by anyone to make this video. I made this video because the app is awesome, and it's way different than other apps. And I'm going to show you in a minute just how we're going to do that. And before I demonstrate how to use the app, I want to give you an idea, a thought. I want to show you something that hopefully you can recall very quickly that will help you to memorize the actions that you're supposed to take when your bagpipe tuner says this or says this. And I made a prop to help you to kind of visualize this idea. Now, if you're a visual learner like me, you're gonna love this. All right, now this is a pan flute. Actually, this is not a pan flute. This is duct tape and straws. But this is a pan flute, and when you order on Amazon, it doesn't come in time. But for right now, this is a pan flute. Now, without even me doing anything, you could probably look at this and tell if I blow into them, which one's gonna be lower, deeper sound, and which one's gonna be higher pitch sound. Ready? All right, next example. This is the inside of a grand piano. Now, I don't play the piano or the pan flute, but I could look at both of these instruments and tell you which one's gonna produce the lower, deeper sound and which strings are gonna produce the higher pitch sound. All right, we'll do one more because I always wanted to squeeze a little history into one of my videos. So this is Napoleon, and he stood 5'7". And this is the famous William Wallace, who stood 6'6". So he's almost a foot taller. And we don't have audio recording of their voices because Thomas Edison wasn't born yet. But if we did take a shot in the dark or take a little wager, who do you think would be more likely to have a deeper voice and who'd be more likely to have a higher voice, right? So I want to give you some sort of a visual, even though I realize it was a little bit corny. I want to give you a visual that hopefully will stay in your mind so that when we get to tuning, you remember that if it's shorter, it's higher pitched. If it's further away, it's lower pitched. So hopefully one of those images will stick with you. All right, the next image I want to burn into your memory to help you to tune your bagpipe faster and to help you understand the data that your tuner is telling you is something that you likely see every day, maybe multiple times a day, and that is the speedometer in your car. So in your car, when the speedometer needle moves To the right, the car is moving at a higher speed. And when the needle is moving to the left, your vehicle is moving at a lower speed. Higher speed, lower speed, higher pitched, lower pitched. Okay, that's the idea there. So when you're looking at your tuner gauge, the needle on there, it's the exact same thing. High speeds, high sounds, high pitch, low speeds in your car, low sounds. So, and I know that's kind of corny, but and totally not lost on me that every tuner has a flat and a sharp symbol on there, so you can just memorize those symbols. But I'm kind of a visual learner, and I think that helps. But also, you know, we have little quirks that we were taught along the way, like every good boy does fine, or deserves fudge, or F-A-C-E, look, it spells face going upward, you know. So we're kind of taught those things anyway, with those little tricks to help memorize things. So I really hope that helps. All right, let's move on. There are only 2 things that you can do to tune your chanter. Now, setting aside reed manipulation or even chanter manipulation, the 2 things that you would do on a regular basis, and those are pretty simple. We can move the reed up and down in its seat, or we can move the tape over each hole to change the distance. Those are the 2 things that we can do. Let's jump into those. Let's say that this straw represents the inside bore of your chanter, and this practice chanter reed represents a pipe chanter reed. And then let's just say that the bottom of the straw represents the high A. So the wind is coming in through here and it's shooting through the high A. What do you suspect happens if the reed is seated here and I lower the reed? Now I'm exaggerating, but if I lower the reed down and I make that less space there, what do you think happens to the sound of the reed, or the sound of that high A? It's going to be higher pitched. And the same thing in reverse, if I raise that up, oops, I popped it out. If I raise that up and I make that area longer, it's going to make it lower pitched or flatter. All right, moving on to a demonstration on what chanter tape does. Now, let's just say that the reed is seated beautifully, and I love the way that reed is sitting up here, so I'm going to leave that alone now. Now we're going to start talking about the high A. Let's just say that the high A is sharp now, and so I'm going to put a little tape on my high A. So this piece of tape is enormous. You wouldn't use anything this big. I'm just using as an example, and you homeschoolers are loving this this visual here thing. But now I'm going to take my tape, I'm going to wrap it around, and then what do we got? We got a longer tube. We got a further distance from the reed to where the exit point is. And that's kind of a demonstration on what the tape does. Now you're not going to wrap it all, you don't have to wrap it all the way around, you can, but you're just, once again, you're just changing the distance from the reed to the exit point on each hole with your chanter tape. Background change, I know, stay focused. I just had a little technical difficulty. We're picking up with this new background. I hope you like it. I used the Braw Bagpipe specific tuner for years and loved it. And there's an iPhone app that Braw makes as well, and they were great. But the one thing, well, there's probably other things, but the main thing that these kind of tuners don't have that the Braw does is that the Braw gives you an average. So you play into it, and then when you're done playing your tune, it tells you where each note is landing. The average is on each note. With these types of tuners, you have to do one note at a time. So you're playing your A, you're like, oh, my A is good. I go to B, B sharp. So I have to fix B right there, okay? And then I have to go to C, and C is good. And I get to D, and D is a little flat, so I gotta move that tape away. And then you're climbing each note at a time, or you can write down what each note is, but the point is that you're doing each one note at a time. Whereas the Braw, it gives you averages. So you're just playing the tune, whatever tune you like, you're playing it in, and then once you're done, it has all the averages, and then you fix each hole based on what that diagram says. Super quick. This cuts your tuning time in half or quarters, cuts it down a lot. All right, we're finally going to use the app, but I do want to mention, there's a variety of different categories that bagpipers could fall into. For example, if you're in a band, and the band tells you that we start tuning at 481, 482, or whatever the number is for that band. Follow those instructions. If you're trying to set up a B-flat chanter to play with an orchestra, different story altogether. The instructions I'm going to give you are just kind of for that beginner bagpiper. You're just now learning how to tune your chanter. You're going to open up the app, and here's the quickest way you can do. Yes, there's a button on here that says calibrate now. So if you press the low A button on the bottom, the square button on the bottom, it says calibrate now. You can follow those instructions, but I'm going to give you just a quicker way. That's easy. You can follow those. My quicker way, just to get you going real quick, is just set your low A to 481, and then just play a low A, and it'll tell you on the left, right next to that red dot, it'll tell you where your low A is. In this case, it's 477. So if your read's at 477, what do you got to do to it? We talked about this already. If it's too flat and we want to make it sharper, we have to push it down some. So you can take the reed out, unravel some of that hemp, push it down, and then play a low A into the phone once more, and just try and get close to 481. If it goes to 482, that's fine. Set it manually at 482. Now for my daily use, I already know that my reed is going to be at least close to 481. So what I like to do is just press on the low A button, set manually, 481, okay. Now I've calibrated the low A to 481. I'll put the phone down, I plug in the chanter, I play a tune, get as close as I can to the phone. And sometimes you have to play a couple tunes, like for example, if you play Amazing Grace and there's no high G in there, you gotta play a tune that's got some high G. But play a reliable tune, whatever that is for you, and maybe even play 2 tunes into the phone, and then maybe even play the scale real quick. In the first round, I like to do this with my drones plugged. That just helps me to get a clean reading, and then I may have to move the reed, I may have to move some tape, but the first round I do with the drones plugged. And on the graph, once you've played all the notes and it has averages, you're gonna see if you get a check mark right in the center, that means that that note is perfect. If it's a little to the right, if the dot's a little to the right, what does that mean? That means it's a little sharp. We talked about that. If it's a little to the left, that means it's a little flat. So let's just say that the low A is good, I get to the B and it's a little sharp. So if it's a little sharp, I'm gonna add some tape to it. If I get to the C, it's a little flat, I'm gonna take away some of the tape. And we're just gonna deal with each one of those notes as we go along. We're trying to get it so that we move the blue circle to the center. So whatever way it needs to go to the center. Once it's in the center, it gets a blue check mark. So we're just trying to move the tape up and down as needed until you get all those in a row. Now, here's another scenario. Let's just say that I set it to 481, set manually, I start playing the tune, and I'm noticing that all of the notes are a little bit to the right, just a tiny bit. They're all lining up to the right a little bit. The solution there is pretty simple. Set manually, 482, save, play the tune again. And sometimes when you do that, you'll notice that you get check marks on all of them because you're tuning at 482 today. So it's a really, really useful tool, and I know that that was a lot. So if your eyes are glazing over, if you're falling asleep, let me just simplify it real quick here. You could just watch this portion of the video and get this done real quick. So here's what you're gonna do. Step 1, play low A into the phone and move your reed up and down until you get your low A to read something around 481. Step 2, play a tune, a solid tune that you know, into the phone so that it can get averages on all your notes. Once you have the averages, you're just going to move the tape up and down on each hole so that you get all those blue lines in a row. It's that simple. All right, let's cover the drone function real quick. Now, I personally don't use the drone function. I tune my drones by ear, but if you're a beginner, well, if you're a beginner, you actually should learn both ways. It's quite a bit easier to tune your drones to your chanter than it is to tune your chanter without any tools. You can really hear when your drones are in tune with your chanter or out. So I'd recommend learning how to do that. But also learning how to use the drone function is something that you could do too. So the phone just has to be somewhere up near the top of the drone. So that can be the difficult part, especially if you're not at home. If you're at home, you can just set your phone up on bookshelf and kind of play your pipes where the phone's behind you, getting that drone reading. And then obviously if the needle is here or there, you know what to do. We talked about that. But you do have to hold it over each drone, and the bass can be up pretty high. You could also just have someone hold it for you, and that person doesn't have to be a bagpiper. As long as someone can hold that up there, and then you can teach them how to read the needle. Again, it's not hard. That's how to tune a bagpipe with the Braw app. I really hope that this helps. I try to condense it down. I probably cut a lot of corners in there. There's a lot of things that you can do in tuning. There's different clips, the microphones, there's different types of tape, and I may go over those things at some point. If this video helped you, share it with another bagpiper. Subscribe. We'll see you next time.